I started to get into the chemistry of the brain and understanding the cell. How does the cell function? What makes it tick? And then once I understood that, it was sort of kind of epiphany moment. I said, wow, if this is the cell and that's what is causing this, then it's going to be something within or around or with the cell somehow is not functioning. And so I started to get more into the chemistry part and the physiology part. And I realized, okay, so it's probably something to do with how electricity is moving around. There were some articles, actually, there are plenty that discuss how voltage currents can affect the brain and pain. And they even mention for migraine, but they just don't go further. So they don't explain why it is happening. They just say it's happening, but not why. And so I started to experiment, and I discovered, again, another epiphany, that salt was helping. Now I have the explanation of why. At that time, I didn't. And so I started adding salt to my diet, just think salt, with a teaspoon, a quarter teaspoon at that time. And other than a little bit making me feel kind of so nauseated at the beginning, because it's something that can be used to make you vomit if you take some toxin, it actually worked. And I said, okay, so if it's working, maybe there's something to this. And slowly, it took several years of evolving the protocol that I currently have. In fact, it's still evolving. It's continuously evolving. And I recognize it. And if I don't take care of it, which happened a couple of times when I was not in a position to take care of it, like in the middle of giving a lecture or some other situations, then I may actually still come down with a migraine, but then I know how to abort it. Migraine does not need to have a headache to go with it. So we already can separate migraine from headache, because if I can have a migraine without a headache, it clearly isn't a headache. So just by that alone is one way to distinguish. The second way to distinguish is if it responds to simple over-the-counter medications. Migraines don't, because they're not caused by the same processes that regular headaches are caused by, say, a stress headache or a sinus headache. They all have different causes. So migraine headache has a very strong physiological cause that can't be undone by a painkiller, because the pain is not the problem, it's the underlying condition. A typical headache can hurt basically all over your head, the back, the ears, the whole thing, the front, everywhere. Migraine doesn't hurt like that. Migraine hurts on one side of the face, and that's it. It can be, not face, but the head. It could be the right side or the left side. It can move during the migraine, but it's never two sides. And there's a physiological reason for this as well. There are some people that claim to have migraines on two sides. I think that what's happening, they may have both sides time to time switching, which some of us do. I do too, time to time. And so when one side is hurting, the other side is sort of kind of compensating and may, in fact, also go down at the same time. But it doesn't, generally speaking, hurt in both sides. And also the length of the headache. So assume a headache, you don't take any medication for it. You just say you eat or drink something, or you go to sleep. It will last maybe half an hour, 2 hours, something like that. A migraine minimum is 4 hours. So if it's less than 4 hours, it isn't a migraine. So that's right away a distinguisher. And a typical migraine is 3 days long. There are people who just have it one day. It seems to change over time. The older you get, the longer they get for some reason. And they can go for weeks, actually, uninterrupted. It can be really, really problematic. The migraine, in addition to these symptoms, will also have other symptoms. For example, migraineurs usually start migraine with being dizzy. Sea leg is very, very common. They may have vertigo, simply just fall over. They usually vomit. I don't think you vomit from a standard headache. So that's the start of a typical migraine. They usually have a very urgent bowel movement, and this is initiated by what is called the fight or flight syndrome, which is part of migraine. And also a migrainer, you can see oftentimes, for example, half their body will go completely paralyzed They will fall off of staircases. If it's not the whole body, it may just half. We have several reporters mid-reporting suddenly getting a migraine, and half the face, like the lips will drop and the eyes will drop, and people will think, well, she's having a stroke. No,
Right.
she just had a migraine.
Annotated and summarized, easy to share with loved ones. The description below the title for this video has these summary points.